Hey, what's up, guys? This is Carlo Valdes. I'm a 2018 Winter Olympian with the USA bobsled team and also an entrepreneur, 3 years in finance. And if you guys want to get results, not just in life, but in business as well, then you should go follow and listen to the People's Coach podcast with my good friend, Angelo Lilac. Hope you enjoy.
Maybe you're thinking, it's too late for change. You're already established and life is good, but it's definitely not great. Welcome to The People's Coach, your guide to living with more purpose and fulfillment. This is how life optimization should be. Brought to you by our host, Angelo Lilac.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The People's Coach. I'm Angelo, I'm your host. And before we get things started, make sure that you're following us on iTunes. If you haven't already, please leave us a rating and review and help us grow this movement. If you wanted more information, you can visit me at angelolilac.com. Welcome to the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the People's Coach podcast. The guest I have today is someone who I highly admire for the structure, for the greatness that he's put into his life. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Carlo Valdes. He is part of the USA Olympic bobsled team. He's been in finance for the last few years, and he's doing some really big things. So, Carlo, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, Angelo. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. There's so many things I want to ask you. And even before we started recording, you already started spewing stuff out. And I'm like, wait. Let's hit record first before we go.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just, I'm excited, got a lot of things to say.
Yeah.
And I want to share everything, especially after talking with you, what you wanted to do. So.
Oh, heck yeah, man. I'm excited. Let's get right into it, man. So I gave people just a little teeny tiny thing. I probably downplayed it, to be honest, of who you are and what you do. But take a little time and explain a little bit more of your story.
Yeah. So, born and raised here in California, Newport Beach, Orange County area. And, I've always been in sports most of my life. Just drawn to it, played multiple sports growing up, like sometimes 5 per year.
Wow.
So I was very busy as a kid, just going back and forth doing that. And, it kind of all culminated into, what I'm doing now with the, USA bobsled. You try to figure out what you want to do because you keep trying to get to the highest level in whatever you do. So that's whatever I try to do, I try to be the best at it, not just, the average, but be the best and dominate. So, played football and track for the most time. Went to UCLA, went to Monterey High School first, obviously, and then UCLA. Focus on those two sports. And
football and track.
Yeah, football and track. Played receiver and safety in football.
Okay.
Stuck with receiver at UCLA, and then sprinter mostly. For track, and I also threw discus, oddly enough. And then that turned into being a decathlete my first year at UCLA. And then I became a javelin thrower after that, just because my coach said, hey, you're fast, you can throw, we'll get you stronger. Javelin would be perfect for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, focus on that the rest of my time at UCLA. And yeah, that's when the opportunity for bobsled happened, because my coach had other athletes previous to me. He would tell those guys to go try out and they would make the team. So guys like Nick Cunningham, he was under Mike Maynard, Andreas Strubal, Nick Taylor. So he has a funny eye for that kind of thing. And yeah, he told me, hey, if these guys can make it, then you can make it. So, took his advice and tried out, and one thing led to another. And, 7 years later, here I am still doing this.
Wow.
Took some time off after Korea, but got my foot in the door. And now back full time. And yeah, been working in the meantime too. Been working in finance for almost 3 years now, which is crazy. And, it's something I didn't think I'd be doing, but yeah, kind of transitioned into more of a entrepreneurial role where not just focusing on building a book of business, but also building a team, and I'm more interested in the growth and development and the leadership factor of all of it. So I want to be able to, lead a team of people and help them grow their book of business. So
Now, I gotta ask. I don't mean to cut you off, but I have so many questions that I want to like put in here really quick. Is it like do you think it's ever intimidating as you're growing your business and people are kind of asking you about your background and you're like, yeah, I'm an Olympic athlete. Like, do you think that's intimidating for people to hear that?
It's funny because when I first started, my first like few months or first year, really, I was I didn't want to lean on that a lot. I just wanted to say, hey, this is what I do. This is what I'm trying to do. This is why I want to help. And then even like, my boss at the time, he's just like, you need to lean on that because it's part of the story. And they're not,
right.
When people come to you, especially in this field, like they're not buying a product unless like they literally call and say, hey, I need this. They want to be like we're getting introduced to people who, have similar interests, and you need to get to know them and figure out what their goals are, and they're buying you. So if you tell them that you're an Olympian and done this, then that just draws them closer to you. And it's a cool story for them because now they think they're along for the journey with you, and they are. So I have leaned on that more, and it's fun to talk about for that first introduction. And when they do follow-ups, they always ask, hey, how's this going? So it's something I've definitely embraced.
Because I imagine it's kind of like people are sitting back when you're doing your Zoom meetings, kind of like chill, and then you say, you give a little bit of your story. They probably like sit up a little bit more and kind of like fix their shirt and stand up a little more straight. Know who you're in front of, right?
It's fun to talk about.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So you mentioned that you went to Mater Dei High School, and I gotta ask, were you part of that whole stretch of like unbeaten records type thing? Were you part of that?
So when I was there, we had a very good team, and we set records like as far as like offensively, we were just a powerhouse. We threw the ball a lot. Matt Barkley was quarterback.
Oh, really?
And then we just had a bunch of weapons. That receiver, you can throw to 5, 6, 7 of us, and make an impact on the game, and it could be any one of us.
That's awesome.
So we set a lot of offensive records that year. Played a lot of tough teams, number 1 teams in California, top teams in the nation. And unfortunately, it didn't turn into anything. Like we lost in the semis my last year. And it was unfortunate, but at the same time, I wouldn't trade that for anything because those are relationships that we still have. A lot of tough practice days, double days in the summer times that we went through, and those bonds can't be. I wouldn't trade anything for anything else. It's just
Amen to that.
We know what we went through.
Yeah, 100%. And because it sounds like, people who are familiar, like Mater Dei High School, your football program's known. I think there was like a movie, even though it was kind of like skewed, right? Like from what I've heard, you guys are known for just being this powerhouse football team. Now, the reason why I ask this is because it sounds like from a young age, you already had this expectation of greatness. I mean, you go to this well-known high school, you go to freaking play football at UCLA, and it's just like achievement after achievement after achievement. If you don't mind, I'd like to go back. Where do you think that came from? Where do you think that high achieving, high performing mindset came from for you?
It's just, with my dad, he put me in with like the best coaches he could. And, he took what he learned and, put that on me. And then you start getting used to that kind of mindset, just saying, hey, like these guys were the best to do it. So try to duplicate it, follow their model. and of course adapt and evolve from there, because we live in an ever changing world. But the mindset's still the same, and being around other people who share that same mindset also helps. So it's just with surrounding yourself with the right people, getting yourself with the coaches who are willing to push you.
Right.
So I've had so many, and we would try to get the best out of you. And I was the kind of guy who you can yell at all you want, and it's not going to affect me. It's going to motivate me, but
Really?
I'm not going to take it personally. Like all my coaches growing up yelled at me. So even as like a 7-year-old, like I was just a little kid, and I was
You were
ready to
just,
tell that.
you were chill. You're like, sure, I got it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, this
No,
is the way it is, I guess. So that
yeah.
helps, and just continuing to, again, bring others into your life that share that same passion. It just makes it easier for you to
Yeah.
accept it and do it.
I love that. I love it. So are your parents like, do they come from an athletic background? Is that kind of you were the born and bred athlete, huh?
No, my parents were athletes.
Okay.
My dad played football, and my mom, she was a track athlete. They competed throughout high school and college. Um,
Oh, wow.
so so yeah, they were athletes. My sister was an athlete. She played volleyball, but stopped playing in high school and just focused on academics. And
Mm.
yeah, I just stuck with it. And it wasn't like I was a good athlete in high
Yeah.
school and in college, but I didn't really. Once I got to college, I wish I took it more seriously.
Mm.
I just I enjoyed being in college and just
Mm.
enjoying it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
track
yeah.
was just there, and I was doing it because I love sports. But looking back, I really wish I took it more seriously, because I might have been better or gotten better earlier, instead of
Hmm.
waiting until bobsled um, to really see my potential as an
Yeah.
athlete. Because once I started bobsledding, like my numbers just went through the roof. Um,
Really?
like I don't know if it was just a late bloomer, or if I really did just take it seriously, and that's what happened. But
If you can go specifically, what do you mean by numbers? So that people like listening and watching are like, what does he mean by numbers?
yeah, like sprint numbers. Like I was like, say, like a 40-yard dash. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have guys who can run, like Sam McGuffey is a good example. He ran a 4.2 something 40 uh,
Damn.
eye to eye. And we have a few other guys who run 4.3s. Like I can probably run a 4.3 somewhere in that range right now. Or back
Those are
then,
like combine numbers.
yeah, a lot of great athletes are come out to bobsled. People don't get it still. It's weird, but
Wow.
a lot of great athletes. And then also like lifting,
Yeah.
like Olympic lifts, power lifts, squats, cleans, jerks, bench, stuff like that, plyos. And then that shows on the ice when you're pushing. All that work goes into the results you have in competitions. So
Mm.
that's what I mean by numbers. Yeah, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I came in with some combine numbers that were just like, okay, it
Yeah.
showed I was fast, but then I got faster and I got stronger. So
Just when you thought you were starting to peak, maybe not peak, but you were starting to get that to a new level in your collegiate career. All of a sudden, boom! There's a whole nother level to get to. So before we
yeah,
dive into that, which I really want to pick back up, I gotta ask: when you were presented with this opportunity to bobsled, what was your like initial reaction? Were you kind of like, "What the?"
yeah, it's not something you grow up wanting to do.
Right.
There's no school to do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, hey, you want to try it. Um, and that's what it was. Like, with going back to Mike Maynard, my coach at the time, who said, hey, you should try out. That's literally how others got uh, introduced to it also. It was just a word of mouth thing. And yeah, we would, the process would be do a combine to
Mm-hmm.
show an athlete's potential. And then from there, you get invited to a rookie camp where you learn how to push, do all these things, see if you like it or not. And then there's a little test at the end of that camp as well. And then based on those numbers, if you're doing well, then you get invited to like the actual national push champs, which was with all the other veterans and Olympians, national team athletes who've been in the sport for a long time. And then from there, you get stacked up with others. And then from there, you get chosen by pilots for team selection races before the season starts. And then based on those results, that's how the national team is selected to go on World Cup. Wow. So yeah, but going back to like, what I thought about it before doing it, it's just, you only see it on TV.
Right.
That's all I knew what it was. Maybe a video game too, like the Nagano video game from Nintendo or something. That was it. Yep. That was my knowledge of it, and I just thought it was, it was simple, just push, and that's it. But it's a very technical sport, actually. Yeah. Not just from the pushing standpoint, but also for the pilots. They got to be, they have to be very experienced to do well, because you got to know these tracks. And you only get a limited amount of runs each day, each year on these tracks, and we can only go to the European tracks once a year, and we're only limited to 10 runs a week on these tracks for official training and World Cup events. And it costs money. It's for how expensive the sport is, it's very blue collar. We do a lot of our own work, lifting, heavy lifting, stuff like that. The sleds are heavy. So there's just so many things that go behind it. And, equipment too. It's kind of like NASCAR. You have good equipment to compete down the track. So there's so many different things involved in this, but yeah, that was my understanding. Was like here when I started, and now it's like through the roof, obviously. But
yeah. So I'm sure you've kind of grown to love the sport itself because you're training in it so much. And one of the things that stuck with me from my very first conversations, we've known each other for, X amount of time. And one of the things that you said that I continue to think about every time I think of you is you said that you trained 4 years for less than 5 seconds. Yeah. Like when you first said it, I was like, wait, what? It was a challenge for me to wrap my mind around, because I'm like, dang, like I never really thought of it at that depth of you're gonna train 4 years for this sliver of time in which whatever separates first place from second place could be like nanoseconds.
Yeah, hundredths of a second.
Can you explain that a little bit? Like, that's just such a big concept that I definitely can't summarize that.
Yeah, I mean, the sport is decided just, again, like if you play that game on your phone where you have to like click the thing really fast to see how like hundredths of a second you can get, like 0.01, 0.02. Like it's real quick, right? So just that's a tenth right there. It's a tenth of a second. So over the course of 4 runs in the Olympics, like races get decided by a hundredth of a second, which is mind blowing. That's almost 4 miles getting decided by that much. 4 years of training, it's just insane that it can come down to something like that. And then for us as push athletes, like 4 years for 5 seconds. That's around the average push time for tracks, because every track's different. Mm-hmm. And the only way we can really maximize that, besides the training, is just reps with each other. So we're doing constant reps with our teams, and we need to be synchronized, because when we're pushing that, it just needs to be super fluid. Mm-hmm. And when we hop in, we don't want any other forces obstructing us, because if we feel like a pushback or a slight pause in that movement when we're loading into the sled, that's not just time, but also velocity. So when we do this, when we do this, like as many reps as we do, we get to the point where it's so smooth when we hop in, where it's like, yeah, okay, that felt good. That was fast. And it shows. It shows good push time. It shows good velocity. And then having speed at the top of the track is super important, because if you don't, then it's not going to compound on the bottom. The having no speed will compound on the time, but it's super important to have that synchronization up top and getting in the sled and loading and pushing together, because that's where those hundredths of a second really come from too. So, and then once we're in, it's up to the pilot, and his confidence in driving and experience on the track.
So if I could ask you, what do you think, if all your years, 7 years on the team, what do you think is the number one quality it takes for someone to be successful as an Olympian?
Just gritty, persistent, and confident. I mean, in being able to work with the team too. You gotta be a great teammate. Because we got a lot of athletes who come in who just don't work well with the team, and they just get ousted. This is a very, very, or this is a sport that highly revolves around being a good teammate and working well as a team. And then being an athlete just helps, and having that work ethic to continue to get better with them, and individually also. But yeah, just having the grit to keep going, and it's a long season. You got to be tough. Injuries happen. Like all of us get these weird injuries. Not injuries, but just like, we're like bleeding all the time. We're getting all these confusions, bruises, and pain tolerance goes through the roof when you bobsled, because it's just the way it is. You just got to trust in it.
So I'm imagining everyone comes from this highly successful athletic background, right? You have, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 people in the bobsled, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got 4 people, it's limited spots. You got to make sure that you got the best teammates, and you put you have a cohesive team that can put you in a path to success. Now, if everyone's successful, how do you balance out the egos, right? Like, you come from this successful background, successful track and football career. Everyone else is coming with their baggage and their success and their accolades. How do you make that work together as a team? How do you blend that into a workable, functioning machine?
Yeah, I mean, we literally spend every part of the day with each other.
Really?
Even off the ice. Yeah, because we're in a training center. In Lake Placid, New York, like in the Adirondacks, which is almost in the middle of nowhere. So there's really nowhere for us to go outside of that. So it's great, because it keeps us locked in and focused, and keeps the blinders on for us and what we want to do, and that's not just make the Olympics, but win a medal. And again, going back to surrounding yourself with people who share the same passion. When we're all on the same page and working to do that, it makes it so much more easier. And then, of course, we get to know each other. We become good friends. I still talk with, a lot of guys from the team in the past, like almost every day.
Wow.
So yeah, the relationship goes beyond, the training and the competing, which is what makes the team even stronger. So that's how we do it. We're just always around each other. So that's it. Yeah, it's really cool dynamic. Put it that way.
Yeah. That's. I'm glad that you shed some light on that, because as I'm listening, and obviously I know a little bit more about your background, and I'm imagining, well, there's 3 other guys in that sled with him who I'm sure are very accomplished. Like, balancing egos is challenging, especially you translate that into entrepreneurship. You know, you're a leader, you got a team, you know, you may have some trouble meshing different personalities. What would your approach be to someone like that? Because, you know, the listeners of this podcast, previous clients, all that stuff, a lot of them are entrepreneurs. So they apply these lessons that they're learning on the show and apply it to business. How would you apply it? You being an entrepreneur yourself, what's the biggest lesson you took away from being an Olympian into business that's helped you drastically, I should say?
Yeah, that's a common question, comes up a lot. And yeah, just everything I've learned and what's gotten me to the highest level as an athlete has translated into business in a big way. Like not just from like the work ethic standpoint, but having that gritty attitude to just trust the process and trust that, you know, all the work you're putting in will pay off at some point. And whether you're working with just yourself or with the team, like you have to be highly involved with the team, obviously, and grow that rapport outside the office. And if you have an office environment, it just makes it that much easier. And, you know, with Zoom, it's a little tougher. I'm not going to lie. With the digital age now, with just doing stuff through Zoom, it's harder. I'm not going to lie about that. It's made things a little more difficult for people who have teams and trying to keep them motivated and highly involved. But again, like if you're putting up results and like you do the work and the results happen, people see that and they want to duplicate that. So if you're good, yeah, I mean, Ed says it, like if you're good at sales, you're good at calls, you're good at closing, like people want to duplicate that if they see you're getting results from it. So that's a huge thing, is just you got to lead by example, and just get your hands dirty, you know. But the one thing that drives our business is activity and the work. So if you're just a workhorse, that's going to make everything much easier in your life. It's like another analogy that people use is spinning the plates. You got to keep the plate spinning, no matter if it's 3, 4, or 5. Like the only way you keep going to business is by keeping them moving. So, and no one's perfect. You know, stuff happens. You gotta adapt and, you know, learn from some things and some mistakes you make. But again, people will see, okay, what does he do after this? After he gets knocked down, like he's going to keep going. So, so yeah, there's a lot of things that I can go on about, but just putting in the work is the biggest thing, in my opinion.
That's good. That's a great reminder for everyone listening and watching today. I want to pivot really quick because one of the things that I admire about you is your structure. There was a time where you showed me your calendar and I was like, what the heck is this? It's all these colors and time blocks. And I was like, that, my friend, is a real calendar. I looked at mine and I was like, I got some work to do. So I give you kudos to that for showing me like what the hell a real calendar is supposed to look like. Now, how important is structure to you? Let's talk a little bit about structure, because again, I want people to see the mind, your mind, and how it's led to your success thus far.
Yeah, I mean, it tells me where I'm going without having to think about it. Because especially with the amount of volume that I was doing, like as far as just activity before bobsled, you need an outside source to let you know what's going on. In this case, a calendar. So, and then you got to be very intentional with that time, because, you know, it's not back to back to back, but, you know, I'm only giving myself a limited amount of time to just, you know, finish up some notes, or to travel somewhere, or to eat lunch, or to work out, or whatever it is. So it has to be structured. Otherwise you get caught, you know, off multiple tangents, whether you're talking to someone for too long about something that's not relevant to work or whatever, which is fine. But I mean, if you want to work at a high capacity, you got to got to be very, very deliberate with your time. So the calendar helps me say, okay, I got meetings between 11 and 5. I'm going to call people, follow up with people, call referrals between 9 and 11 and 5 to 7. I'm going to do some internal meetings early in the morning with our teams, some group huddle meetings, stuff as a team in the mornings or maybe even at night as well. And then schedule time for the gym. Okay, I'm going to the gym at 7 p.m. or I'm going to the gym at 12 p.m. in the middle of the day sometimes. It just, you need it. I need it. A lot of people need it. And it's super helpful too. And then if you just try it for a week and then see where you're at by the end of the week compared to other weeks, then obviously, you'll have your answer of why structure is important, I guess. So
Totally. I think like when you are strategic and intentional about how you're setting up your time and your days, who you're investing it, how you're investing it, it takes out the thinking, which I think a lot of people, that's how they spin their wheels. They think, and not enough actual doing, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to see like this pattern of, well, I can't do this. I can't do this. Well, honestly, you were thinking about it. You just never took action on it. But when you create that structure, like, one thing that I've started doing within the last year is I get my workout clothes ready before I go to bed. So the next morning I just get up and put my workout clothes. And actually, I've upgraded that especially during COVID. I sleep in my workout clothes. So I just, you're probably like, I don't know, man. Yeah. So I just get up, brush my teeth, wash my face, and I'm good to go. And it's like I don't got to think about what I'm gonna wear. I don't got it's already set. Now all that extra RAM I've saved up, I can apply that to business, to the podcast, whatever else I'm gonna do for the rest of the day.
Yep. Yeah, that helps too. I mean, I have to do this sometimes, especially bobsled. I gotta get my sliding bag ready the next day because I don't want to do it early in the morning.
Yeah.
And just say, okay, I'm going to do this, and that, and then we're going to go to the track. Or with business, like say you want to call 50 people the next day, you have to sort out who you want to call and have a list of people prepared instead of me shuffling through my phone or notes, taking time away from that time slot that I have set aside to do that specifically. So if I'm not prepared for that, then I'm wasting my time, or I'm not going to make the most of it, I should say. So stuff like that. Having notes prepared for like meetings, follow-ups, especially like knowing, okay, what do we talk about before? Because you see so many people, you need to have notes to help you remember what you talked about, and that's gonna go a long way with the person you're talking to. Like, oh wow, this guy's like prepared and like knew exactly what we went over and what we're over now. So it's being prepared, not just in business but also in bobsled is huge. In any sport, honestly. I don't know why I said that, but
only in business and bobsled, everything.
Yeah, it makes things run so much smoother. So
100%. Well, one of the things that I wanted to dive a little deeper with you is recovery. You and I talked about this months ago on a quick call, on a quick chat we had. And I was like, oh, dude, that's so interesting. The way you talk about recovery. And even more recently, you just wrapped up your 2021 season, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
So I know like we hopped on a call about a week ago and I could kind of hear it in your voice. You sounded a little tired. I know you were kind of running around. So I know you felt a little drained, and you were kind of telling me how the season, it takes a toll. It takes a beating on you. Talk a little bit about recovery and what are some things that you do to kind of get your physical and your mental game back on point.
the last quad between 2014 and 2018, like I would get really sick after each
Really?
season, like bad sick, just
No
because
way.
you're operating at like a high level for so long, and then finally when you take a break, especially from just the training, supplements, all the food intake, like stuff like that, it just your body like almost goes into shock and drops, and then it's just very you're exposed to just getting sick. So that's what
Wow.
happens, and um, this time around, like I didn't get sick, but um, still you can feel it. I still feel it right now. Honestly, it's just not as bad as last week. Um,
Yeah.
and it's so important just to take time after the season just to do nothing, and
Mm.
especially like just with work too. Like I don't want to do someone a disservice and think I'm ready to meet with clients or meet with potential clients, and I don't want to be in a mindset where I'm just not ready. So which is why I gave
Mm.
myself this week, and I want to start working again next week, but I'm not going back in the gym for another couple weeks because my body still needs to heal. Um,
Mm.
and then in season two, like it's super important to off season and in season. Super important to get as much recovery as you can, and that also takes time away from the day.
Yeah.
You gotta put 30 minutes to an hour to just taking care of your body, whether it's stretching or I have my Theragun, percussion therapy, um, getting some work done on maybe some areas of my body that need to be released, some tightness, other things like maintenance stuff, just making sure I don't get this hurt again. Um, like some yoga stuff, like myofascial stuff. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, just doing everything you can just to make sure the body's ready to go for the next day and the next competition. And it's super important because this is a sport where you need to be 100%. Like,
Mm.
and if you're only 80%, you might need to speak up and say, hey, like I can go, but I don't know how good it's going to be.
Mm.
So I mean, either way, like most of us will still go and just work up a Neapolitan, as they call it, just to get me through the day or practice or race, whatever. Which it's like just say anti-inflammatories,
Mm.
pre-workout, muscle rubs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and it helps because you don't feel a thing. But at the same time, like doing too much of that is going to take a toll on your body. Sleep, if in the simpler terms, the best way to recover is just by getting enough sleep, eating well,
That's so good. Yeah.
and
Okay, but how much sleep per night do you were you getting while you were competing, while you were in season versus when you're going off season?
well, for me personally, if I'm not getting 8 hours, then I'm not going to feel good the next day. Um,
Mm.
9 hours would be optimal, um, and seven just like I don't know. So yeah, any 8 to 9
That's interesting.
is optimal. If I'm not getting that, then I'm going to be like, all right, this is going to be a rough day, but I'm going to have to push through it. So,
Yeah. So what do you think about the
yeah,
people that say, um, people that say stuff like you can be like you can sleep faster or you can sleep more efficient, right? Like I remember when I was a cop, I was only getting. I mean, I'm not trying to wear like a badge of honor, but there were days where I would get maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then I would get called right back out, and then or sometimes I would work overtime and I wouldn't get a whole lot of rest and then come home, shower, eat, get back up and do it again. So a lot of nights were like like minimal sleep. And then now,
mhm.
especially in the entrepreneur world, team no sleep is a trending lifestyle right now, right? You sacrifice your sleep so that you can stay up. You stay up later than everybody. You get up earlier than everybody. And you're saying like, no, like as a high performing, not just athlete, but you're a high performer. You're saying like, yeah, 8 hours. But what do you think about the
Yeah.
people that are saying like less than that? Like you can sleep more
Well,
efficient or whatever.
my 2 cents on that
Mm-hmm.
is if you're putting your body through enough stress, like we do,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you're training and competing at a level where you have to go 100% all the time with there's no cardio base. Like the only cardio base that you really have is just you're able to last the whole season and able to do those reps 100% multiple times a day or a week. That puts so much stress on your body. You have no choice but to sleep.
Mm.
Otherwise, your body's gonna get shut down. Now, when you got people who just work and who are just using their brain to succeed in caffeine and all these other outside sources to perform,
Mm-hmm.
maybe sleep. They don't need sleep. I don't know. Like in other sports too, where it's more of a cardio base or aerobic base, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
They don't sleep as much either. Like Kobe, for example, or Jordan, or all these guys that said, "Oh, I only got 4 hours of sleep." That's just freakish level stuff, honestly. Not everyone
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on. There's a reason why those guys are where they are at, and they're able to do that because that's just how they operate, and
Mm.
their body got used to it, and it doesn't work for everyone.
Mm.
So when
Yeah.
all these people on social media saying, "Oh, I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning," hey, great, that works for you. It doesn't work for everyone. Otherwise, if I don't get sleep, even in the workspace, like I'm going to be just droopy face all day, um, and not be able to survive unless I had like an ample amounts of caffeine, which I love, by the way,
Right.
but it's not healthy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, I'm the kind of guy that needs to get a good night's sleep in order to feel good mentally and physically for the next day, especially training. When I was doing both working and training at the same time last year, this time,
Mm-hmm.
holy hell, like I was a mess in the morning. Like it used to be
Yeah.
easy. I hate mornings, but it used to be easy for me just to say I can deal with the tiredness and go in the office at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning.
Uh huh.
But with training on top of that I do late at night, it made that like impossible. I was just like it was hell. The morning was hell for me. So it was like it was an extra fight just to get out of bed, because of soreness and just body was fatigued, just
Yeah.
training fatigue, all that stuff. Nothing bad, just
Mm-hmm.
that's the way it was with what I was doing with work and training. So,
Mm. Mm.
but yeah, so that's what I would tell people who are feel like they're getting left behind because they can't they can't do what others are doing and get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, don't worry
Mm-hmm.
about that. That's just if you really want to do that, then fine, go ahead, test it out. But not everyone can do it.
I love that. It's like you just you have to figure out what works for you. Some people operate better in the morning. Some people operate better at night. And it's fine. Now that we're
Yeah,
talking about it, when I was at the PD, I remember being more awake at night because I was working the midnight shift, and then my mornings I would be really tired. And then like now that I'm out of that, I love waking up earlier in the morning than rather than staying up later at night. And it's kind of like you figure out what's going to match your lifestyle and what you need to perform for your waking hours. Then you just figure out what
yeah,
the heck works for you.
yeah. That's the best way you can put it.
Brother, I appreciate you, man. I want to respect your time. You know, we're right around 45 minutes, and I really appreciate your time taking some time to do this interview, to share your story, some of the insights that you've learned as a high performer. I think if you can speak to that person listening or watching this interview right now who wants to kind of take their life to the next level, to become a high performer like you? Maybe they're looking at maybe implementing your scheduling tactics, or maybe they're looking at implementing your recovery tactics. What would be your number one tip for them?
Number one tip, honestly, would just be yourself. Like, don't try to be someone else. Like, especially in business, that's something I didn't do when I first started. I was just kind of trying to be something else or someone else, whatever. And people saw that, and it was just not genuine. But then, one of our work meetings or like big conventions we have each year, when I was at Northwestern Mutual, like one of the guys who spoke at that conference was just like, hey, the number one, if I were to tell someone the biggest thing to do in this business is just be yourself, and everything else will come. So yeah, people, who stick with you, become clients or become part of your team, like they're going to invest in you. So just be yourself. That'll be the number one thing. Embrace it, and you'll start seeing the change in your business if that's not what you're doing right now. So,
amen to that. Amen to that. So, how can people get a hold of you? How can they keep in touch with you, follow you on social, kind of see what you got going on the business end? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on multiple platforms. I mean, I really check Instagram the most. That's my athlete page. That's my handle down there for Instagram and Twitter. Facebook, no, a lot. I'm on LinkedIn too. I actually need to get back on it. I got a lot of messages to sort through on there. So I'm actually going to be more. My plan is to show more bobsled stuff on LinkedIn to kind of get more people in the business side of things, to get them more involved with what I'm doing athletically. So I think it'll be a nice little transition for them, and be like, oh, this guy works and does this at the same time. This is insane.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
I'm looking to be more active on LinkedIn now that I have time, because I didn't have time before. Just too many things. You got to focus on. You got to prioritize what you want to do. So it just wasn't a priority.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And so yeah, that's how you
That's
can follow and keep.
That's awesome, brother. Well, man, I'm excited for you. It's glad to have you back. I know, like, when it's in season, I'm kind of like, okay, don't bother Carlo right now. Let him do his thing, and we'll catch up when he's freed up more. So I appreciate you making time for this interview. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge, and I'm excited to see what you got going on with LinkedIn, and I'm excited to share your message with the world, brother.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me, Angelo. It's good to share all that stuff with you guys and everyone else watching and listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope that you enjoyed the show. Make sure you follow me at angeloliloc.com. That's ANGELOLILOC. You'll receive our weekly newsletters, any updates, any events, giveaways, all that kind of stuff every week straight to your inbox. All right, we want to make sure that it's easy and convenient for you. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.